Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to give other registrants a few more minutes to join us. We had quite a few registrations, so we'll get started in just a few minutes. For those of you that just joined, welcome. We're going to get started in just a few more minutes. Hang tight. All right, we're going to get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, How to Use Google and Bing Advertising to Support Your Business. My name is Thais Voot. I'm the events manager here at the GACC South. So welcome, everyone. And I would like to ask that we hold all questions till the end. So if you use your little chat function, we will hopefully address all of them at the end of the presentation. And now I'd like to introduce you to Stefan Klink, who is our speaker today. Stefan, the floor is yours.
Thais, thank you so much, and welcome everybody. It's great to have you on here, and I guess it's hello from my home to yours these days. Thanks for joining us on the introduction to Google and Bing Ads. So just a few quick words about myself so you know who you're dealing with and who you're listening to. I'm Stefan. I started my marketing career at Google itself, and I'm what's usually referred to as a PPC specialist, PPC standing for pay per click. So this is really the online marketing that deals with the ads element. Throughout my career, I've had various roles in-house at agencies, most notable Tivana, Starbucks, and I've been running my own one-man boutique agency, as I like to refer to it, since 2013. If we want to keep it simple, you just call me a freelancer, and that's perfectly fine as well. Let's have a quick look at the agenda. So introductions, quick and dirty, we've done that. And I also want to do an icebreaker. Even though we're all just sitting probably at home, staring at our screens, let's pretend we actually are at the auditorium, at the chamber. Let's pretend we're together, and of course, we're going to do an icebreaker. In this case, I will do a little icebreaker, and in case anyone of you's wondered where my video is, that has to do with the icebreaker. You will actually get to see me. My video will be on, so I'll be joining you in your homes momentarily.
Stefan, sorry
Yes.
to chime in. Your screen is still frozen, so if you don't mind going to the next.
Oh, I am so sorry. Thank you for jumping in there. Here we go. So let me
There we go.
go back just one, since I talked so much about what I did and who I am. So you all must have missed this one. So that's me. That's what I look like. And then the few things I've been doing, and here we are with the agenda. So I'm going to do a little icebreaker in a moment. Then we'll continue with current online search trends. I brought a few numbers and graphs, but not too many. Then we'll talk about the search engine results page. Obviously, you all know what Google looks like, but when you want to run ads, it's important to actually know where exactly they run, what they look like, what they do. So we'll just break down the search result page a little. For top ads, I'll have a fifth bonus ad as well, with the different paid search ad types that are around. Items 2, 3, and 4 will really be the majority of our webinar today. That's what we're spending most of the time on. And then we'll finish off with a few mission critical prerequisites if you want to run ads. I'll have a few links for you to get started if you say, let's just jump right in. And then of course, there'll be time for Q&A. I do hope there'll be time for Q&A. I promise I'll do my very best to get everything in less than an hour, and then we'll address that. And now comes the promise icebreaker. So once again, it's great to meet you, everybody. And I thought to get this started, maybe a little change from the typical webinars that we do, I share a little personal tidbit about myself. A tidbit that's related to the coronavirus pandemic, just like pretty much everything else these days, just like this webinar, the online trends. And let's face it, it's sad times. So we all need a smile, we all need a laugh, and that's just kind of what I'm trying to do for you here to get us all started, to put a little smile on your face and get you to laugh. I've seen we had a very long list of registrants. There's lots of you out there, and a lot of familiar names as well. So hello to all of you who know me. So they already know my face. To all of you who don't know me, this is me. That is actually what I look like. Almost feels like online dating now that I have to say something like that. However, strange things happen when you're in quarantine. And I'm sure all of you have one or several strange stories, and different situations, well, they suddenly make you adjust, and we're adjusting everywhere. So one of the things that comes with a quarantine is a quarantine hair, and that may sound familiar to some of you. So for me, it actually looked like that. Now, so far so good, but too much hair for me. I am not that much into the shaggy look, even though I always have my hair. But when you're sitting at home with too much time and nothing better to do, things turn into that. At least for me, that's what it looked like. Enjoy that for a second. Some people do crazier things, others don't. My mom actually asked me if I wanted to scare little children. I promise I don't. Oh, it's just too much time on my hand. Obviously, that is not a permanent situation. Comes the quarantine haircut. And now I look like that. Now, as you can tell by this really happy look on my face, I really do miss my hairdresser. So that is where we are. That is what I kind of sort of look like now. And this is the moment where I officially want to welcome you with my video. There it is. Hey, everybody. It's great to see you. Thanks again, 3 times the charm, for joining us today on the webinar. Now, this is not what I usually look. Part of the spiel here, right? So whenever it's time for all of us to be back at an event at the chamber, we're all having a drink or some food and we're networking, make sure you look for me with the hair again, because this is not going to last very long. Now, this, however, brings us right into our first agenda item, the current online search trends. Obviously, everything's been changing. Not just our behavior in general, but our behavior online, things we can do, things we can't do. So obviously, a hair salon near me is not really that much something people look for. Let me find my little laser pointer here so I can walk you through this slide real quick. And what we're looking at. The data I'm showing you here, and we'll have a few of these trend lines, comes directly from Google. It's called Google Trends, and it basically shows you how many people search for a particular search term. So the search term is here. We're searching in the United States over the past 12 months. So back here is May of last year over to April of this year. Now, what's very important to keep in mind with the slides of this type that I am showing you is that we're not looking at real numbers. So what we could be having here is thousands of people searching. It could be millions. So these are only trend lines. What we have at the side here, 25, 50, 75, 100, is just the percentage. So it just shows here has been the highest peak of search volume, and everything else is in relation to that. So we're just looking at a relational chart here, but not actual numbers. So keep that in mind, please. Now, obviously with all the stores, all the physical stores shutting down, hair salons had to close. Nobody really searches for them anymore. But what happens to offset it are the hair clippers. So it seems like I'm not the only person who's running around with really short hair now, but quite a few others as well. The jump that we're seeing here with the hair clippers, obviously compared to people trying to find a hairdresser before, is quite significant. However, you've probably heard it on the news, and you've gone through it yourself. It really pales compared to other searches, to other items people want. And I think here we have everybody's favorite, if we're going with this one, toilet paper. Yes, I said it is the toilet paper, but I put all 3 together next to each other just that you see how much this jump that we had with the hair clippers, which looked big, how it's actually dwarfed based on how suddenly people were interested in going for the toilet paper. So there obviously is a big shift from something that used to be purchased in the stores, and now everybody's trying to find it online, but find it is still a whole nother question. So let's look at a couple of trends that we've been experiencing ever since the lockdown started and ever since the pandemic unraveled, because there have been some very interesting changes, and there have been winners, there have been losers. But when we talk about online, we usually talk about the winners and where things have been looking up. So this is week 1. At the bottom right corner, we have the date March 13th through March 19th. So this is just a snapshot of some of the verticals that really saw increase in numbers of purchases, that saw new consumers come in. So pharmacy, groceries, tobacco, food and beverage, pet food and supply. So during week 1, they were the big winners. But what people wanted, what people searched for, and what people went online for was actually very much in flux. There have been a lot of changes week after week after week. Things are changing as more lockdowns come in place, and we will be seeing the same thing happening now as the lockdowns are being eased up. So if we look at week 2, suddenly we have the fitness vertical really being in business. Comics and animation, philanthropy, music, consumer electronics and technology too saw a big spike in sales. So there's been a lot that's been going on there. Consumer packaged goods, all in all, they were really the big winners. So this slide I brought you here just breaks down how certain segments within the consumer packaged goods actually benefited, so to speak, and how trends increased. Now, when you're running an online store, when you already had your e-commerce business, you were selling, everybody loves an increase, but it's really this whole question about too much of a good thing. There have been so many stories about Amazon, you probably heard it, and you probably experienced it yourself, that Amazon stopped sending out non-essential items. You've probably seen, if you've tried to order anything, that your delivery dates were suddenly pushed out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks and more at some point. Things are slowly getting better. Amazon is hiring, but it's a situation that, even though an increase is nice, it is also creating a lot of problems. Now, I'm going to walk through a few scenarios, because all these ideas that a vertical did well and increased is all fine and good, but how does it actually translates into what people really want, what people really look for? So let's talk about restaurants. They've been in the news a lot. The restaurants had to close, and clearly people are not searching for them so much anymore. One thing though, please note, even though the curve goes down and people are not searching for them anymore, the searches don't completely bottom out. So even though there's a decline, there is still a certain volume. Restaurants are still doing takeout. Some were able to sell alcohol, for example. So one thing that's always important to look at when we have these trends is, how far down does it really go? How bad is it really? Now, this is bad, don't get me wrong, but we also need to look at, is there an opportunity, or is there a way how we can counteract it? Now, just like I showed before, where do people go instead? When they don't go to the hairdresser, they get their clippers. When they can't go to the restaurants, Instacart has also been one of the big winners in this whole scenario, also to a degree where they could not keep up with demand. Now, let's look at some of the winners. And much of what we see here are really existing online stores, existing e-commerce sellers that already had a website, that had their logistics, their processes in place, and they just needed to deal with the volume. But they had something in place. But then there are also the brick and mortar customers that just switched to online. So there are a lot of stores, be it the Walmarts, be it the Targets, be it other smaller stores, where people who usually buy in the store couldn't, and then they went online. So online benefited a lot from that as well. Now, Webcams, we've seen it in the rolled up vertical data earlier, consumer electronics. Now, webcams is exactly what we're doing now, right? Suddenly everybody is working from home, needs to set up a home office, and not everybody was equipped for that. So webcams suddenly became a hot commodity. Laptops, same thing. So everybody who was in this business did really well. And since we're looking at increases, and I just want to show you a little bit how people behave and what mattered these last few weeks, again, dwarfed by this guy. So even though we're not on Zoom, suddenly everybody knew about it, when before that, maybe it was a semi-niche product, but everybody knows exactly what Zoom is, what Zoom does these days. Now, let's talk about something that's maybe not quite as obvious as the electronics that we need or the toilet paper. You've seen the beauty segment actually did really well as well in the rolled up data. So if we look at makeup, it didn't take a hit. And it may at first be counterintuitive. You think people don't go in the office, maybe let's not do the makeup today. No, it actually did really well. People still want to look good on camera. People may still want to look good for themselves at home. So there is a trend that I thought was very interesting. It actually saw an increase in searches. Board games. Now, here we're looking at something directly related to people being bored, being cooped up at home. But what is fascinating about the board games is not just the fact that it saw an increase in people being interested in. It is interesting how much of a spike they had. So you see the two humps. The first one, December, that is the Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and Christmas season sales rush that you usually see in toys and games and things like that. Now with everybody pushed up, this is a whole nother Black Friday. We're talking holiday season volumes in some of these industries. So that's quite amazing. But then there are also things that maybe aren't so intuitive or even come to mind. Sidewalk chalk. Who would have thought? Now, if you're a parent, maybe this is something absolutely clear to you. I am not a parent, so I thought it was very interesting to see the type of products that actually may see a surge at times like this. Let's talk about those industries and those searches that did not do so well. Let's call them the quote unquote losers, if we will, because it's always nice to talk about how great and wonderful everything is, but not everything is great and wonderful for everybody. So obviously, the travel and leisure industry has been hit absolutely hard. And we're seeing it here for the cheap cruises. What's very interesting though, and let me find my my little spotlight again, is the spike. So the date line here doesn't have it, but this is actually mid-March. And this is a fantastic insight in user behavior, consumer behavior, because online marketing, online advertising, and just how users move around the web has to do with so much psychology. This is mid-March. This is when things were just about to get really bad when the lockdown started. We heard about the virus, we had a few cases, but we still didn't think it was so great. So right at the beginning of the lockdowns over the past 12 months, there have actually been the most searches, people trying to get a good deal. But then just a few days later, as they realized how bad it gets, everything tanked. And I think that is just fantastic to see and something to keep in mind. How do people move around? What is the trend? And sometimes it can change on a dime. Same thing for the airline industry. We've all heard how they struggle. And I don't think a lot of people are really interested in squeezing in a plane these days. divorce lawyers, services. So it's not just products that we're talking about, things, stuff, services, professionals plays a big role as well. Now the hit is not quite as significant, but there has been a little hit because it usually is a service where you go and meet somebody in person. I've actually heard that some bookkeepers are taking bets these days whether there will be more divorces or babies after the pandemic is over. So that'll be interesting to see. So I'm rooting for the babies. Psychiatrists, same thing. So people didn't really search much for psychiatrists. So here's another service provider that did not get quite the volume that they used to in the past. But once again, as I said before, please note that it's not completely bottomed out. There's still people looking for it. There is still some volume left. Now, all of this said, all of these trends shown, and obviously it was just a very small snapshot of all the different searches we have, but with regard to what does it do for your business, the question comes up, now what? Where is the opportunity and what can I do? There are actually several things happening here, and there are a variety of scenarios to consider. The first and most obvious one is take advantage of your product or service is actually trending up. So if that happens, jump on it, ride the wave. Because the situation, and you've already seen some of the curves coming back up, online searches are getting better, especially for some stores, brick and mortar, some states are slowly opening up. So if you fall into the category that benefits from people staying home, needing what you do, what you sell, jump on it. Secondly, check the trends for your business, for your personal business. Obviously, I was just trying to kind of get a snapshot, hit a few different areas, what people search for, but you with your own business, plug it in. The screenshots I showed you is a publicly available tool. Go to google.com/trends, and anything from your company name, that's interesting too, how many people actually know my company and search for it, to the services you sell, the products you sell, plug it in, see what your trends are. Is there seasonality? Did the pandemic bring something special about? So check it out. That is definitely something I encourage you to do, and then use that data to decide on your next steps. Reposition your business or just your message. Not everybody is so lucky that they are part of this online uptrend, and you may have to tweak things. I want to just go back real quick here to the therapist, the psychiatrist example. So searches obviously took a dive here and people were not interested so much. But if we look at a different search, like worry in this case, not surprisingly, people are worried. Now, not so much as 2 or 3 weeks ago, but people are still worried. There is still a major increase in worry. And worry is something that, if you happen to be a therapist, may be something to address. So this is where I'm saying pivot, adjust the business, adjust maybe what you help, adjust what you sell, but also adjust your message. Be it in your marketing, in your ads, but also on your website. So especially in this particular case, for example, we're all being safe. We're at home, we're in front of our computers, that's perfect. And we can still conduct business. So if you are any professional, not just a therapist, but your site just looks exactly the way you did in January or February, it may not tell me a whole lot. But if your competitor has in big red letters a message on your site that says, COVID-19 update, we are open, we're doing safe video conferencing calls and I still help you. Now that may encourage people to say, you know what, let's pick up the phone, let's move forward. It may be something they won't put on hold because at some point we want to move forward, and if there's a way you can show we do it in a safe way, let's do it. And you've probably seen it on TV. I mean, we have touchless this, contactless that. There are a lot of different pizza companies that actually have their little cell phone sequences of the different employees to really ride the wave of here's how we adjust to the pandemic situation. Here's what we do to avoid the virus, to keep you safe, to keep us safe, but we're still open for business. So think about how you can tie that in with what you do. Now, that said, big disclaimer right here, especially since we will be talking about ads on Google, ads on Bing. Both Google and Bing do not allow you to mention COVID-19 in any way, form, or shape in their ads. That is a message that you need to work around. So you can say, I'm doing safe video conferencing, but you can talk about it on your website. The problem is that there have been too many unsavory players, scammers, that both Google and Bing just decided no. The only messaging we allow is from authorities. So for any business, that is something we can't do. But there's still a way around that. We don't need to specifically mention the virus in an ad in order to advertise in the current environment. Now, another thing, support your physical stores. If you have any, if you're a brick and mortar store, it doesn't matter if it's 1 or 100. Online can help support your physical stores more or less to a certain degree. So what I brought you here is actually a screenshot from one of my clients, and this is real sales data. This is a small business. It's a brick and mortar location that sells hobby supplies. And I just want to show you how for them, the whole scenario these days turn out. Now we're starting January 1st, and this is data through end of April, so just a few days ago. And this is a business that does most of their sales in the store, a very small online operation, but they knew online was up, was coming, so they've been running their online store for a few years already, but very low flame, very low volume as well. So 2, 3, 4, 5 sales a day max, so really low volume. But you can see how mid-March, suddenly their sales take off. Now, much of that is induced through paid search because that's where we're flexible. That's where we can say, let's spend more on ads. Let's show our ads to more people. And my client says, yes, let's absolutely take advantage of it. And there were several factors. As a hobby store, just like everybody else, she had to close down. And the problem that we see with so many stores, they don't make money, but the costs continue. She was lucky enough that with this immense increase that we were able to produce for her, she can actually cover all her costs. She can fully support her store. Now, I brought this small business example on purpose because it is so important to see that you don't have to be big and you don't have to spend thousands, tens of thousands of dollars to make a dent. You can be small and still benefit, and you can still make online marketing work for you. So she is not really worried about the future at this point. The income levels are good enough, even though the store is closed. I mean, she's thrilled to finally open up again because she misses her customers, but it's best thing to do right now to help. And there are many other stores who do this, that do the same thing, partly because store customers pivot to online or because they ramp up online because they need to support stores that are not making money. Obviously, the situation is different for everybody. If you do have 100 stores, your overhead is so big, you may not be fully able to cushion everything, but to a degree. So it's just important to keep that in mind, to look at that. One thing that is really interesting, I need to find my laser pointer again here. It's this spike right here, these two humps, and this is about the middle of April. And this is an interesting spike that was seen almost across the entire e-commerce universe because the middle of April is when the first stimulus checks hit the bank accounts of people here. and a lot of people went on a shopping spree. So this is something a lot of businesses reported where they said, yeah, we are actually seeing how that made a difference. So within the upswing as a whole, even there we have more spikes. And there are a lot of tactics that you can apply. I'm sure you've been plastered with emails over the last few weeks. Everybody has a discount here, a discount there. So there's a lot going on. Now, let's talk about other things so that the data shows us and what it means, why it's important. Going into online is just another way to diversify your marketing channels. If you haven't been online yet, and my small client here is a great example, she's been diversified. Even though she hasn't been big online, the fact that she was diversified, she was able to now take advantage. So considering online, diversifying, that is absolutely important. And this is not just something that happens now while we are under lockdown, while the pandemic goes in. This is also a long-term view. What happens after? There will be something else coming on down the road. So being diversified is just good practice, period. But also prepare for future online growth. So throughout the last few weeks, people have gotten so used to buying online that every expert is certain, surveys have been made that prove the point that a lot of people will stay with online. So even though there have been a lot of hiccups with high demand services like Instacart, for example, despite these hiccups, a lot of people who weren't really shopping online, they kind of smelled blood, if you so will. And a lot of them said they may stick with it. So online, even though it's already been growing year over year very steadily, online sales were really a relatively small sliver of the total economy. But that's probably going to change much more rapidly now that people were forced into utilizing it. So it is you just being where the people will be. So prepare for that. And then there are two more points, and they really relate to the situation we're still in, and that's the pandemic. Because uncertainty is the word of the day, of the week, of the month, and nobody really knows what is going to happen next. Will there be another stimulus payment, for example? I already showed you that there was a little spike when the first stimulus hit. Some people haven't even received it. Maybe there will be another spike for that. But who knows how long the situation lasts. So there may be more of that. So if there's more coming, it would be nice to be ready for it. And then, and don't get me wrong, I'm a positive guy, but we also need to be realistic, and there have been a lot of studies out lately. Georgia Tech did one for Georgia itself. I believe the University of Pennsylvania did one for the US as a whole, just looking at how many more people will be infected and potentially die if we ease the restrictions, if we ease them now, if we ease them in a month, or if we wait another 2 or 3 months. And some of these outlooks are really bleak. So everybody agrees more or less there will be a second wave. The question is, how bad is that going to be? And will there be a second lockdown? Now, knock on wood that there won't, but we just don't know. So there is yet another point to be prepared for. Now, let's actually look at the search engines, what it looks like, what you can do, and how it would look like in the wild. Now, the search engine results page breaks down in mostly 4 result types, and those are the paid results, your local results, organic results, and what's called the knowledge graph results. And I'll show you a few screenshots, what it all looks like and what it means to give you an idea. Now, you've probably noticed already with the trends, everything says Google on it, and these results say Google as well. Everything you find on Bing is more or less identical. There's just less volume. However, it was very important to me to say that this is not just paid search advertising on Google, but also on Bing, because Bing still matters. Depending on who you listen to, Bing still has 20 to 30% of market share, and that's a pretty good chunk. A lot of marketers ignore it. They feel it's too small, but I don't like that. If I know there may be 20 to 30% of business left on the table, I don't consider that change. I like to go there, but for our purpose here today, all my examples are Google, but everything on Bing is roughly the same. Now, I just did a search for accountants near me right here, and the entire top, there's an ad, there's an ad, there's an ad. So obviously, these are the paid results. This is followed by a map. And everything I'm showing you here, you've probably seen it. So we're really just breaking it down so you have an idea what would show where. So here we have the map, and that is considered the local result. Let's see here. With the laser pointer, it won't allow me to advance the slides. So now we actually have to scroll. I have a fairly large screen, and what you're seeing right now here in the slide is everything I see and nothing else. I have to slide to see more. So right now, all I see is ads and the map. So I have to scroll. I indicated that with my arrow to the right, so you see where the scroll bar is. So I scroll down and still more of the local results. And then I got a slide about mid-page. That's where we're finally getting what's called the organic result. So the organic result is just your typical blue link. It doesn't say ad. The reason it's called organic is because of all the pages out there, Google thinks that its content and its answer to the question in the search box is the best. So you're not paid. So these are quote unquote free, even though they are not really free because it's hard work to get your pages all the way there to the top position. But even then, you see how far down they already are. But these would be the organic results. And now let's talk about the knowledge graph. So you've probably seen these boxes on top when you have certain questions or queries or something that can be answered with bullet points, the 10 best this, the 20 best that, birds of prey in Georgia, whatever it is, you have something right there on top, just one quick answer. And that is something that's powered by the knowledge graph. And the knowledge graph is basically Google's data repository, and they just pull up what they think is the best answer and they present it right there in an easy, quick way for you. So how to cook spaghetti, I'm sure that's something that we all needed to do. Some knew it better than others, but the knowledge graph can come in a variety of ways. So it can be this answer on top, but it can also be information about sites, about locations, about people. If you search for any celebrity, this box that suddenly populates there on the right side, this right space, often it's blank. You've seen it in my example before, there was nothing, but very often it is populated too. So the knowledge graph data is something that Google populates in here as well. Now, it's not always so clean and it's not always so easy, and very often results look very different. So suddenly we're having a very busy page and all you see is ads. So over on the left side, we have suddenly 4 ads, and all the pictures over to the right, it's more ads. So we're once again in a situation where a lot of scrolling is required. And that brings us right to the paid search ad types that we're dealing with. Now, before I address the ad types themselves, let me address terminology real quick. We've already talked about PPC a little, but there's a very distinct breakdown, not only between what's what, but it also has to do with service providers in digital marketing. Because digital marketing is very fragmented, but also very specialized. So the yellow box on top, all those ads, dealing with ads, writing them, optimizing them, putting them in the right place, making sure people who click on ads then also convert and buy from you or give you their email. All of that falls into what's called SEM, search engine marketing. So everything ad related is the SEM side. And then further down, SEO, and I'm sure SEO is the abbreviation that most all of you have heard before. I'm getting called SEO, and then this exact discussion needs to start. SEO stands for search engine optimization, and it is actually the practice of getting your website set up, optimized, organized to a degree that you show up in the organic results. So SEO has nothing to do with paid results where you run an ad, but it's actually Google. After Google has crawled and evaluated your site, says, oh yeah, for certain searches, this is a great result. We'll put them up high. So that's SEO. Big difference. For our SEM, PPC, pay per click, I've mentioned it at the very beginning since I'm a PPC specialist, but it just stands for pay per click, simply because the way these ads work, every time somebody clicks on this ad, the advertiser pays Google. If you were to pull up this page here for Reading Lights, there are two text ads, those two blue lines that say ad. The first one, best light for reading, and the second one, Wayfair. If you decided you click on Wayfair, Wayfair had to pay Google, but the first company wouldn't because the ad wasn't clicked, hence pay per click. Sometimes you will hear CPC, cost per click. It's a slightly more antiquated way of referring to the practice itself. We're still talking about costs per clicks when we talk about metrics inside the accounts, but as a practice, it's antiquated, but you may run into it. So if you see CPC, it is also something related to SEM, or just short paid search. We also often just say, I'm in paid search. This is exactly what we're talking about. Now, who benefits from all of this? Depending on who you listen to, once again, you get different answers. Of course, Google, Bing, they want to tell you everybody benefits, but it's not that easy. A lot of people, a lot of companies and businesses can benefit, but not everybody actually does. B2C, B2B, and D2C, they are all good cases to really benefit and utilize it. If you have a website, if you're selling something, if you need to generate leads, yes, you can do it. If you sell a product, if you have an e-commerce website, then that is almost a no-brainer. But then once we talk about service, is already a slightly different question, right? You offer professional service, you're a lawyer, you're an accountant, you're a financial planner. Yes, you can do it. Personal services, or if you're in lawn care, if you're a plumber, that works well as well. Leisure, travel, well, they used to, but obviously they're so hard hit, especially since we're talking about how can we utilize it through the pandemic and coming out of it. They're the one industry that basically pulled all the marketing spend. So for them right now, not a good idea. Restaurants, again, this is a toss-up. Do you have delivery? Curbside pickup? So that's one of those things where it may or may not work. The one big critical aspect, and I get asked about B2B a lot, so I want to address that. That is really strictly case by case and what you sell. If, say, you're making a specialized part that needs to go in a car, no car manufacturer is likely to search online for a new supplier to roll out the next model. So maybe not a good idea to then spend extra money on Google. There are other channels. But if you run, say, a commercial cleaning business, yes, an office manager, either because they don't have a cleaning service or because they're not happy with the one they have, is very likely to hop on Google to search for commercial cleaning. And then again, it depends on how big is the company you're trying to acquire. And mentioning commercial cleaning, especially now, most every company that is open or is trying to open up, they're ramping up cleaning, sanitation, so there may actually be opportunity. So what opportunities do we have? I'm going to talk about the top 4 ad types that are out there and that are typically being used. There's the classic text ad, there's a shopping ad, there are call ads, and then there's what's called display ads. Now, the text ad, this is the original ad, this is how everything started, and it probably is still the workhorse, in paid search. And like you see here, the first 4 ads is just your headline, everything in blue, and a little description underneath. It's something you can write yourself or have somebody help you. And then there's what I like to call ad decoration. Here, there's a star rating that can be pulled in. Here, we have a few additional links. There's a way to show a telephone number. There is a way to show a promotional offer alongside these ads. So there's a lot of ways to make them bigger, to make them nicer, and to offer even more information. So this is the classic text ad, and that can show anywhere. Then come the shopping ads, and the shopping ads are probably one of the most popular ads if you run an e-commerce store. So this is truly about having a product and trying to sell a product. So the entire area on top, these images, these little blocks with image, description, price, and rating, those are the shopping ads. And the way they work, you give a data set to Google that includes the products you have with all the information, the title, the description, what it costs. And with that data set, Google can surface it here. And when you click on any one of these ads, you will automatically go straight to the page where you sell this product on your website. Now, shopping ads can be on top, but they also can be on the side, like here. And one thing, if you could look at what I searched for here, when to plant my flowers. So even though shopping ads usually show up when people actively show an intent and interest to purchase something, that's not always when your ads show. Sometimes Google may just say, oh, this person may be interested to buy something, even though I'm not really interested in buying anything. So that's also something to keep in mind when you run your campaigns, when you set them up. So this is what the shopping ads would look like. Call ads. Now the call ads are really interesting, and they are something that's mostly good for the service industry. Fantastic is actually the right word. Fantastic for the service industry. It only runs on mobile, so that's why I'm showing you a little cutout here of the mobile phone. And the call ad is not an ad where people go to your website when you click on the link. Right here, and right here, you see it says call and it has a phone number. Since this is only good on mobile, people are enticed to call you directly. A lot of businesses, especially businesses that are in lead generation, they're more interested in having a person on the phone rather than them browsing the website or maybe filling out a form. So this is the way that Google allows for people to just call you directly. If you're an emergency locksmith, if you're a financial planner, if you're an attorney, if you're any type of service provider, professional service, personal service, these call ads are really nice to get people on the phone rather than just going back and forth. Now, I promise you a little bonus because there's something else here on top. It didn't actually make my official list of the 4 top ad types because I don't think it is one of the top ad types, but it's an interesting ad type because it says Google guaranteed. You see the check mark. So we have a little bit of verification here that this is something good. Google has a program that's called local services. So if you're a service provider within a local area, you can undergo a vetting process with Google. So this is involved. You don't just go to an interface, run your ad, and you're going. You actually have to interact with Google. They will vet you. They will do a background check. But if you pass all of that, again, this is for mostly service providers, you can run an ad that shows you almost endorsed by Google. So it is interesting, but it is not so easy to get in there. And then the 4th ad type that we're going through are the display ads. Now the display ads are very different from everything we've looked at before in that they don't show up on Google's page itself. So you don't actually search and get an instant result, but this is the kind of ad that we find everywhere else on the internet. I got The Joy of Baking here, a fantastic website if you haven't checked it out. Most newspapers, gaming sites, inside of apps, it doesn't matter where you go, there can be an ad. Obviously here, World of Warcraft, Sling, and then it kind of drops below the fold where I couldn't see it. Down here, this little blue sign indicates there's yet another ad to come. So lots of ads for people to see. Second example, Wall Street Journal homepage, same thing over here to the right side. We also have an ad. Now, these ads can give you a lot of volume, a lot of exposure because you show your message to people who don't actively search for it. So the purpose of using an ad like that is obviously very different because people don't actively search for you. But in order to get the message out, it can be very powerful to use such display ads. And you also notice in my examples, they were all colorful images. There is design. You can, within this display space, also show your text ads. So where we have Subaru here, there could just be a couple of links with information, just like we saw earlier. But because it shows in the environment of a different website, it would be considered a display ad. Now, let's talk about prerequisites. And I see we have 5 minutes left. So if you had a lot of questions, I have to apologize now because I think we may get to one or two, but there will be my information at the end of this presentation, and you can email, you can call, every question will be answered, I promise you that. So let's talk about the prerequisites, and this is absolutely crucial. Some of this may almost seem ludicrous that I write it down here, but it is actually necessary to say because it is not self-understood. First of all, you need a user-friendly website. When you run ads on Google or on Bing, the way it works, people click on your ad and they are, in most cases, redirected to your website. If you have a website that doesn't load, that has error pages, that is hard to navigate, people will walk away. The back button is something people do all the time. There have been enough studies how slow websites, non-responsive websites kill conversions. And with killing conversions, what I mean is people don't follow through to buy something. They don't follow through to fill out your form, to send you an inquiry, whatever it is. Whatever you want people to do, be it to buy something, to call you, to download something. There are a lot of things you may want people to do when they come to the website. You need to make it easy for them. And then the second point, and this is absolutely mission critical, is tracking. And this is the most important infrastructural item that I talk to clients about, and it's also the part that very often makes me pull my hair out because it is not taken seriously enough. But without tracking, without good analytics data, you just don't know what you're doing. If you run ads, you're spending your money. So you want to make sure you're spending money in the right places, that you're attracting people who actually turn into customers, into clients, and that you cut out the waste where people click on your ads who just kick the tires. All of that analysis and all of that optimization can only happen when you collect the data first. So always make sure that tracking is something you consider and you put on top of the list before you even spend a penny on any advertising. Now, I have a few links for you to get started on Google. If you want to sign up, it's right there. There are always coupons available, so I'm not going to read out the links for you. I know we have the replay. I can also share the links if you're interested in those. And then there is the link to the Help Center where you can find so much information about Google Ads that that you probably want to walk away again. But everything you ever wanted to know is right there. Take it with a grain of salt though. The moment you advertise with Google, and the same goes for Bing, it's their business. They want to make money. So Google will not tell you how you save money. Always keep that in mind. So everything you read, all the recommendations, there are a lot of good recommendations. It's true, but still think if it makes sense for your business. That is always a top question. Does it make sense for my business? Now I have the same thing here for Bing. And I've mentioned Bing because that's still the name of the search engine. Everybody knows it as Bing, but officially it's called Microsoft Advertising. Again, I have the sign up page for you. There are coupons available. You have to go to Retail Me Not though to get the Microsoft coupons, and they as well have a help center. Now, if you feel like, oh my goodness, I want to jump at it right now, you have some tools, you have some links. You can jump at it yourself, do it alone. Everything that's done both in Google and Bing is what's called a self-service interface. So it's something you create your account and you run the ads. Any other professional who may help will use the same interface. Even though there are other specialized tools, everything eventually runs through the proprietary interfaces of Google and Microsoft. So self-service is always an option. So you can either jump in yourself if you want to do it, if you want to read up on it, learn, maybe you've already done it. You can work with a full service agency and they don't just do ads, but they help you with everything under the sun. They do SEO, they do social, they build your website. So agencies are an option, or you can also ask an independent paid search specialist, such as myself, for example, to help you. All options are possible options, and they each have advantages and disadvantages, and it really depends on you, what you want to do, how fast you want to do it, and your business situation. Now, one last nugget before I let you go, I do want to share. If you do choose to go it alone, if you jump in there, please be aware of what Google calls smart campaigns, because for you as an advertiser, they're usually not so smart. Google, when you first set up a campaign, looks at your website. You have to give the URL of your website, and Google then evaluates for you how to set up your ad account. And if they put you in a smart campaign, it doesn't always happen, but it often happens, get out of a smart campaign because it doesn't give you much control. And the one thing you want is control when you run ads. So that's tip number one. Make sure you're not stuck in a smart campaign if you set this up yourself. And also make sure you really read up what the difference is between a broad match and an exact match keyword. One of the single most biggest errors that I see is not handling these keyword types right. Definitely look at that. And if we have anybody out there who's working for an NGO, something for you to look at is what's called Google Grants. Google actually gives free advertising money when you are a nonprofit, an NGO. You have to apply for it, but that may be a really nice way for you to get started. Now, it officially says Q&A, but Thais, I think we are 2-3 minutes over, so I will just put up my contact information here. I apologize we didn't make the Q&A. I know I promised, but as I said, I am available for everybody. I will answer every question you have. Reach out, email, you can find me on the web, you can find me on LinkedIn. It has been a pleasure to spend this lunch hour with you all. Thanks for being here. Thanks for tuning in. I hope I could share a little something for you to take away, to take action, or at least to think about what you'll do for your business with Google and Bing ads. And that is it from my point. Thank you again. Stay safe, stay sane, stay healthy. Thais, it's back to you. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you so much, Stefan. And sorry we didn't get to answer any questions, but like Stefan said, his contact info is below. We can share it in the thank you email so you know how to contact him. Thank you guys so much, and hope you stay healthy and safe.
Thanks so much. Have a great week, everybody.